Hello, and welcome to Presence Practice with Poonam and Parker. Welcome, everyone. Hey, Poonam.
Hey, Parker and everyone.
So today's topic is loneliness. This has come up frequently in the spiritual communities that I'm around. So if you have a perfect, beautiful, waking up human being, but there's a strong desire to be connected with another person, and it's like this primal need, and or just a pervasive feeling of loneliness even in a relationship. So loneliness will be the topic that we will chat about today. If you went out into the world and just walked down the street and asked somebody they would what to do about loneliness, you're going to get a variety of answers. One of them is to busy yourself with things that interest you. Go and do your hobbies. Go and get a meetup group and meet people and do hiking and play parcheesi and chess. And so you're not busy enough. We need to go do more things so that we feel like we can distract ourselves from the loneliness or just busyness. Maybe we don't want to do that. Maybe we're in our house. We don't want to see people. We don't like people either. And so we'll busy ourselves, and our house is immaculate. All the laundry's done. All the electronics are charged. We're caught up on all of our shows on the Netflix. And now we're sitting on social media, and all these bombs. Let me get a glass of wine if it creeps up on me, right? So all drugs, alcohol, extreme sports. So there's so many distractions to keep us from sitting in our skin, which is not separate from anything or anyone. It just feels that way. Can feel that way, and it can feel that way because we have thoughts that we're alone. And you may ask another person going down the street, and they may say, well, if you can't, they've read some self-help books, and they say, well, if you can't be alone with yourself, then you're going to be miserable to be with. So you need to learn to be alone with yourself. And so someone says, okay, I will learn to do all my hobbies alone then. Oh Lord, I don't really, I want to say that my humor is just in yes, those are all options, but they're short-lived. They have a short shelf life. But to end loneliness completely is to accept that it's there completely, and all the tenderness and compassion that you would give, that you would see yourself demonstrate that internally, and then you'll experience that true, pure kind of love. You experience yourself as the awareness behind awareness, the alertness for perception, as Eckhart says. We're not in resistance to any of it. We're not in resistance to the loneliness, to the feelings of lack, to any of the thoughts that go through, but we can see the thoughts now that are provoking the feeling of loneliness. We in interactions with people, it's easy to see people that are uncomfortable in their skin, isn't it? It really is. And it always has, like if you're making a drink or a recipe, it always has a dash of loneliness, the role playing. Please connect with me. Let me be the person you want me to be. And it seems to perpetuate that same feeling. It also seems to hook into the pattern of what people call self-esteem, where, I think it's Eckhart, maybe several teachers have said some version of this that I have found. true. We begin with I hate myself, so certain self-loathing, and get comfortable in it. There's certain self-love, and then we move to I love myself. So we may busy ourselves reading lots of self-help books, and there's nothing wrong, nothing going wrong there. But if you truly want to step outside of it, then the paradox is that you step inside. That's what we do. And so we move from I hate myself to I love myself to I am myself. And we drop it all. We fully accept everything as it is, not the story. The facts are as they are. And the facts tomorrow may change. They may even get more intense or less intense, but they're still just situations. They cannot touch the radiant essence that we are. And we could sit more fully in that space. It's very lovely. If we're seeking another person to have an experience with them, I can say that there's no greater experience than peace. And that these anxiety-inducing emotions that we can get attached to the one that's going to complete me, as Eckhart says, right? And we look outside of ourselves to create something that's going to relieve us of our feeling of separation. That's really comes down to. But everyone on their own path. I certainly spent a fair number of years moving from relationship to relationship. So I would have felt like there was nothing else at the time. I do understand. It's just the stillness will always be there. It's always there. Excitement, falling in love, the dopamine, serotonin, having a disco in our bodies. Yeah. It eventually comes back to this. And we can step out of the insanity of that pattern if we'd like, if we're ready to. And if we're not, that's okay too. And here's a big hug on your journey. Feel loneliness can feel very disconnecting, but know that you are connected, even when you think you're not connected, and that you don't have to believe every thought that you think. And that you are infinitely loved, because that is what is too. Just want to put that in the hopper with any thoughts that anyone may be having that are feeling like they're not cared for. Do you have any anecdotes or wisdom for the topic of loneliness?
The one thing, as far as filling up our space is concerned, I remember one of my coworkers, he was getting divorced, and we got in his car to leave for lunch. And the moment we got in the car, he turned on the radio and played music a little bit louder, right? I was like, why do you need music? There are four of us in this car, right? Like in my mind, there are four people that you can talk to, but the human mind, the way it acts, he goes, I cannot live without having music in the car. Like you can see the tendency of the human to want to, like, if they're experiencing some kind of loneliness, or where God or planetary intelligence is putting them in a position of, here, let me strip you of all that you possess. Let me strip you of your marriage. So reducing ourselves to nothingness. And then this human takes everything to fill it up. Like they cannot let themselves rest back and feel the void of the relationship. They want to fill it with the music and alcohol or what have you, right? Like people come in into the house, and the moment they come in, they want to turn on their TV. Like there's not a second of solitude. There's not a second of silence in their lives. um, Eckhart talks about this. I think it's a French philosopher, Blaise Pascal, who says all of man's problems can be reduced to this one thing: their inability to sit in a room quietly by themselves, right? Something along those lines. So the day that we can sit in a chair in our room all by ourselves quietly and not wanting that urge, right? Oh, let me go cut vegetables, or let me just go throw a load of laundry, like the constant doing. When we get to that point that there is no urge of that kind, is the day that we are one with ourselves, that we are okay with ourselves, right? We can feel the life force that we are. Byron Katie has a very cute way of saying the same thing. She says there are three kinds of business: my business, your business, and God's business. God's business is nature, right? Like the tornadoes and all that. We cannot interfere with that. But she says, anytime that, so my business is my business, your business is when I'm worrying about my child, my daughter or son or relative or friend. That's your business. So she says, when you're in your business, who's here for you? That's when you feel the loneliness, right? The day that we are okay with, no, that is not my business. Worrying about my daughter or my son or my mother or my father or my whatever is not my business. I have to stay within my business, which is this present moment.
Yes,
Same thing said a different way,
beautiful.
but she says that is the loneliness whenever we are in your business.
Yes, or whenever we have went unconscious for a while, we may have a strong unconscious pattern that comes flooding back that tells us that we're separate, that we're not understood, that there could be many different ways that this onion can taste and can peel. Those, I think that's really a key. I want to say from my experience, because I did spend a lot of time entertaining myself and could not stand the total silence, but it changes when you're waking up, where that just, for me, it just stopped. I just never turn on I don't have a television, haven't for many years. And I don't do that in my car. I don't need to. I do have a whole list. People send me constantly talks and books and movies and podcasts that they would like me to listen to, and so generous. But it's wonderful. But we've become a loud world anyway. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could sit with our own bodies without these uh, situations and people and things coming and going, and still be at home inside of ourselves and not needing anybody or anything to complete us, right? That's a nice thing.
And I feel because of the noise is the result of the resultant factor after all the noise has been introduced into our life, which is the fridge making the noise. Even when we go into the bathroom, we turn on the exhaust, and you can't even be peaceful in the bathroom. That thing is going brrr, making a loud noise, right? You cannot have peace when you're taking your shower. It is amazing that we cannot feel our life force because all this noise takes up the life force. Like this intensity with which we can feel our life force, the more quiet the external world is, then we can go to the inner quiet, right? It kind of diminishes what is needed, or what is needed in feeling the whole energy field of who we are is experiencing our life force, experiencing our
Yeah.
presence power. But all this noise takes it away, right? Like we are, instead of feeling consciousness fully and completely coming through us, some of it is distracted by the laundry, the dishes, then the burr of the fridge door or fridge making noises. It is
Yes.
amazing, like whenever there's quiet, how much more we can experience all of you know, and even the interconnectedness of. I remember on the 1st of January and 25th of December, when the city is so quiet, I was like, oh my God, it is so beautiful. The world
Hmm.
is so beautiful, right? Experiencing that quiet. So
I would love to see coming up the world recognize noise pollution as being really disruptive and unhealthy for everyone here. And I know they're doing it with light pollution right now, and they have hours where people have to shut off movies, but we could, or shut off the nightclubs. I think we'll move to a much quieter. I am a quieter person, and I love what you said about how we don't even, especially us that live in cities, there's always a background, some kind of a noise going on. But I want to share with you, when I was in my early 20s, was having a crack in the shell of the ego, not cracked all the way through, but cracked. And I went up to about 5 miles into the Appalachian Mountains near Asheville, North Carolina, and the bluffs between Bat Cave and um, what was that other town? It escapes me, but we're in the bluffs, and this is 5 miles of the residents take care of this road. Very quiet, solar energy, like just very still. And I said, I'm going to go up here by myself for a week. And I did. And it was so still. I just couldn't, it was too much for me. I mean, I planned whole schedules by myself. I painted, I cleaned up. I mean, I was cooking. I was trying to find better television channels. I just never held still, not for a minute. And the questions, but I want to say that at that time, I was started to ask the questions. I started to say, what am I, return to some of the bigger questions. So it was you know, like very much clinging to what's next. So, but I put myself, that was one step. I did put myself in that, so it's the moral of that story. I bring that up is because it really doesn't matter how peaceful we make it out there if we're not uh, inside, if we are not sitting in the peace that passes all understanding, as they say in the Bible. Yes.
you know, one thing about all these appliances making noises, there was a musician, he's from Pakistan. He was talking about creating music in the appliance so that it kind of vibrates with the life force. So it's not the irritating kind of music, but something that raises our vibrational frequency. So I was like, oh my God, that would be incredibly amazing if appliances and all these things, or either they are soundless or they make that kind of sound that actually raises, because music is something that, you know, administers to the soul, right? If they can create that kind of music. So that's a great innovation to look forward to.
Yes.
Thank you, Parker. Amazing.
Thanks, Dana.